al casino, adesso in discesa al Mirabeau, dove si affacciava da ragazzino per guardare correre le monoposto di Formula 1 sulle sue strade, dove è nato nel 1997 da papà Hervé, scomparso 7 anni fa. Quell'ultima bugia, ho firmato per la Ferrari, non era ancora vero. Quella bugia non stava bene per accompagnare papà alla pista di kart della famiglia Bianchi a Brignoles per provare la prima volta un kart. È un boato, Monaco, la piscina, l'uscita, l'ultima volta, la rascassi in salita a casa tua, Charles, a casa tua, Charles, a casa tua, Charles, a casa tua, Charles. Charles Leclerc vince il Gran Premio di Monaco per la prima volta in carriera.
We are recording after my favorite race of the F1 season so far. I think the best race that we've had so far.
The best race
100%.
in Formula One history, I think.
Definitely, I think it's up there with the classics, one of the best races that I've watched. But just before we get into this episode and get into the meat of this episode, we did do an episode after the Miami Grand Prix and after Lando Norris's debut Formula One win. We covered a host of topics, including Adrian Newey and regarding Merck's design, but I think those topics are a bit outdated now, and there's not a lot of news on Adrian Newey's future, and unfortunately, due to certain technical difficulties.
From my side, I forgot to upload it on time, and we couldn't edit it fast enough.
Definitely not from Kavinka's side.
Not for Kavinka's. No, it's my fault. I couldn't upload it on time on the Google Drive, and Kavinka didn't have enough time to work on it, so it's my bad. But
yes.
And funnily enough, we said, because we hadn't done an episode after Australia.
Yeah.
And after Australia, the next episode we actually covered was from Miami, and that was another race where Max didn't win. And we said you'll probably see us again on that. It's moot, but we said you'll probably see us again the next time Max doesn't win. And if this goes out, hopefully it will go out. At least that prediction is true.
And interestingly, the intro to that episode had Abhishek saying, "Oh, Max has not won a race, but it's not Leclerc who's won the race, but I was doing one."
I was rubbing it, Shavin, but really happy. I mean, it's a great result. We'll get into it.
But I mean that's basically, obviously you touched on it, but Monaco GP, Charles Leclerc finally breaking the Monaco curse. I mean, before I get into like what it meant to me as a Charles Leclerc fan, I think it was a really nice feel good moment for everyone who was watching Formula One. A lot of buzz around the victory, but what do you think of his victory?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I know I bug you a lot when it comes to Charles Leclerc. It's nice to wind people up. I mean, I guess when it comes to things, sports related things, right? I mean, not to compare us to them, but with Matty and Tommy on P1, right? Tommy always loves winding up Matty because of how passionate he is about Charles. But like I said, deep down, I've become a massive fan of Formula One in general, right? And even though I say I support McLaren, okay, fine, but I like to see everything about Formula One, and it's such an incredible story. And I mean, knowing the backstory, about the struggles he's had before, despite being on pole, he should have won in 2022. 2021, he had the unfortunate incident with the gearbox, and not just that, right? You have his personal stories as well regarding his father, regarding Jules Bianchi, losing his friend Antoine Hubert. All those things are emotional stories. And when you see someone triumph for that, it really is an emotional thing. And me personally, I was risking getting having some kind of problems at work, because I was at work and I couldn't watch the race. So I was always on my phone checking what's going on. I was hoping the laps would go down to see him somehow win. So I was risking losing my job, but it was a risk
It was worth it.
well worth taking because in the end he won, and it was incredible to see. Right, you saw like the marshals were crying, the crown prince of Monaco was crying, the other
Yeah.
people on the podium were crying. It was a really incredible moment. And that's just from a normal Formula One fan. Ferrari fans and Charles Leclerc fans, I think it would be even greater, even if that's possible.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I've been following him very closely since from his Sauber days, but also since he joined Ferrari, and he's had such horrible luck in Monaco. He's had multiple DNFs. He had did not start after qualifying for pole, I think in it was 2021, I believe.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, he had I mean, in my years of watching Formula One, one of the worst mix-ups or one of the worst like pit lane decisions that I have seen. It was such a horrible thing to watch.
And not to be
And
outdone,
obviously,
they repeated that exact same thing in the following race in Silverstone, if I'm not mistaken. Was that Silverstone? I think the next race was Silverstone.
No, I think the next race wasn't in Baku where the car car had a DNF.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But then Silverstone.
the car had a
afterwards.
DNF, and then probably Silverstone after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's not go back to 2022, which was just a nightmare season.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was really nice to see him win, and until the very last lap, yeah, you can see like everyone, all the tire mechanics, everyone in the garage when they're watching the race, like they didn't even want to celebrate until he was like passing Raskas and coming on, and coming on the pit straight, and then they were like celebrating because like it just seemed like there was a curse around it, but he finally conquered that Monaco demon, and it's such a special thing because when you look at like Monaco, like I think Monegasques, not people who live in Monaco, like Monegasque nationals, there's only like probably like 10,000, maybe under 10,000.
Yeah.
So so for someone from Monaco to win the race, it's something really special. And like you said, so many stories around him regarding his father and Jules Bianchi who passed away. It was a really nice story just from a story perspective. But I think looking at the race itself,
absolute snooze fest.
Yeah,
Max said
it was a snooze fest. Yeah, definitely. I mean that's a larger issue with regards to Monaco and how these big F1 cars don't really suit that Monaco track. But me personally, maybe I'm being biased, but I really like the race. I think it's a special race in the calendar. Like there's no other like spectacle like it.
Yeah.
And for Charles' performance, I think apart from maybe Melbourne 2022, you could argue that this is probably his most comfortable race win because Bahrain wasn't super comfortable. He was fighting with Max, and then if you look at his other two races, the one in Spa and in Monza as well, he was fighting with Lewis. So this was this was relatively comfortable. Piastri didn't give him too much trouble, and he controlled the race really well from start to finish. And yeah, I think it's really, I mean, it's good to see for the championship that on a day that Red Bull are not at 100%, that Ferrari can challenge them. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think nothing much to add to that. I think he did what he had to do. He was very smart about it, and where he didn't need to push, he didn't. He managed that gap well with Piastri. I couldn't watch the race completely, but I was following the comments on like the strategies and not wanting to give the cars behind too much of a gap where they could get a pit stop and potentially undercut or whatever. So he was handling that very well. Of course, Piastri having that, I mean, I don't think it would have made too much of a difference because I think it was manageable, but Piastri was also managing with that damage whatever he had with Sainz, the contact with Sainz. But still, I mean, I'm pretty sure the pressure would have been intense, right? It takes just that slight, loss of concentration to put it in the wall, and you had that bad luck year after year. I mean, not just in Formula One, in Formula Two as well. Two races in Formula Two, he's DNF. So having that cloud over you, the pressure would have been immense. Like everyone was talking about how comfortable he was and all that, but still, that's definitely going to be in your head. But the way he managed it, like great maturity shown, and that's something that we've always spoken about Charles. Like we at the start of the season, we spoke where something Charles needs and I hope I'm not cursing him because this Grandstand curse is getting out of hand kind of recently. But what we said was something Charles needs to have that Carlos has is consistency. But Charles this year has been incredibly consistent. Like he's not finished outside the top 4. And by doing that, he's suddenly in a situation where he's just 31 points behind Max. Whether he challenges for the title or not, that's a completely different question because Red Bull is still Red Bull, and they'll probably be strong. We'll get to that later. But so far, he's done everything he needs to do, and there's nothing more you can ask. Bravo, Charles, incredible performance. Nothing else. I mean, obviously, you deserve to have fun and enjoy because I think you deserve it. Incredible.
Yeah, 100%. I think before we move on to, I know you touched on Red Bull, but before we move on to Red Bull, I want to like shout out Oscar Piastri as well because he's had some really good performances over the last few races.
Yeah.
And I think he had a really, really good race from start to finish. Even after the contact, even after damaging his flow, he managed the race really well. He didn't let Sainz pressure him, and he got second place. So really, really good signs from McLaren from him. But I think we should touch on Red Bull before we move to the other race winner from Miami.
Yeah.
With Red Bull, I think interestingly, most people are saying, Red Bull didn't have a good weekend, and maybe this is the collapse. Maybe they're not as good.
Yeah.
Maybe they're falling off. But if Max hadn't touched the wall in turn 1, Max would have probably qualified like at the very least, I think P3 and split the McLaren,
P3,
right? Or P4. Yeah.
I think P3 was possible.
Yeah. So even when they're not doing well, there's a very good chance he would have gotten a podium. So
yeah.
Do you think it's panic time for Red Bull, or do you think this is just a one-off track for them?
No, I think it's just one-off. I mean, they came into the weekend knowing very well they're going to struggle. So that's a good thing. I mean, it's not great when you know you're going to struggle, but they know where their problems are, which is curb riding, bumps, anything that unsettles the car is not good for some reason. They just don't have an answer for that right now. So they know that that's their problem. And that's not always, it's not going to be the case in every track. Canada might be a problem again because there's a lot of curb riding in that track where you will really attack the curbs, and Max was struggling to do that. So maybe you might see a fight there, but once you get to the proper European tracks, unless there's something fundamentally wrong that we have not seen, you will probably see Red Bull back in front. So sorry to break your hearts, but yeah. And we'll have to talk about Lando because it's a bit all over the shop, unfortunately, because of me not releasing the episode. But if you look at Imola, Lando was catching Max at a rate of knots, right? But then Max showed why is Max Verstappen. Like, you just need to give him a car that's good enough to win races. He will win races. He's that good. Like, and like it's really frustrating when people just put it all down to the car. When you can see now when Red Bull was struggling, like where they were, like, and it shows that it's not always the car. It's really Max, that's really pushing it to its limits.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, he must be having the car built around him, but why not? Because when it's on song, like that guy's winning easily by like 10 to 20 seconds, So I think so like I said, in Imola, Max showed that if you give him a car to challenge, he will get close to the win, or if not win. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I think it seems like there's still a lot of work to be done to catch Red Bull, to beat Max, not Red Bull, Max. So we'll later see, but you never know. I mean, the development race is on. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think like Zach Brown said this statement that he sort of said that if Max was in any other car that he wouldn't win the championship. I think that's a bit of an unfair statement, and it's a bit taken out of context because I think the Red Bull is clearly a better car over a season than the rest of the team. So if you put a top level driver, there's a good chance that they'll win the championship.
Yeah.
That being said, Verstappen, like very similar to like a Fernando Alonso, takes he extracts 100% out of the car. Like you know that when you give it to Max, when you give that Red Bull, especially that Red Bull to Max, he's so comfortable in it. he's gonna get the absolute maximum out of it. There's no stone unturned. There's nothing that can be gained. So this, I mean, we know the gap between him and Checo, and like the tiers that they are in as drivers, but it's just proved again in this race because, like you said, the challenge is not to beat Red Bull, but it is to beat Max.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think it's I think that there could be challenges here and there, but it's over a season whether you can actually like haul him in.
exactly.
Because there's another element. Like it's one thing to like challenge like over like a few races, and another thing completely to challenge over a season for a championship.
Exactly.
And Red Bull have that experience, Merc have that experience. Both and Merc have currently fallen off. They're not at the level they used to be, but they have that experience of challenging. Ferrari and McLaren are the two most successful teams in Formula One, but their last championship, their championship success came in 2007 and 2008, like those 2 years. Of course, Ferrari had challenged for the championship afterwards, but not successful, right? So, sorry, man, I just say it's longer for McLaren, but yeah. So it's something because Red Bull went up against Merc and were successful. So and now and then they continued their run, so they know how to operate. Of course, there are things going on behind the scenes that are probably not not making the situation better at Red Bull, but still they're a well-oiled machine. So it will be a challenge, as Ferrari found out in 2022. Unfortunately, sorry to bring it back, but they had the fastest car. But I think the Ferrari, I mean, I'm going off topic here, but I just feel every time I look at that 2022 season, I feel like Ferrari didn't realize. I feel like Ferrari did not realize that they had a very fast car, because they every time they were ahead, they never looked. I mean, they never focused on this. They always focused on everything that's happening behind for some reason.
Yeah,
there was quite a few situations. That's just completely
I mean,
random.
It was a case of a team that was just not ready to challenge for the championship. Like there was so many races. I remember that season, like almost every race. So
I can tell you right now, like where do you want me to start?
There were so many races where they were just ill-equipped to handle what was going on, and and I mean, I don't want to blame the team principal at the time or whatever was going on, and
just
obviously management's changed. Yeah, and
I mean, you can't just like if it's because like Binotto was part of that incredible team that won like 5 championships in a row and won again 2007, 2008. So it's not like he has no experience at all. He was the man behind he was the engine guy basically. So he built those engines that won those championships. So I mean, sometimes it works, it doesn't. But quickly touching on the other winner, another special victory, one that has also been coming for a long time, since Russia 2021. Lando Norris to Lando now wins, and he almost doubled it immediately after in Imola. I mean, obviously, again, have to praise Lando because he's been a top driver for a long time, and people have always criticized him again, which is found very unfair, just because he did not have a win. If you look at his podiums, how consistent he has been, right? And over the recent past, he's been consistently on the podium and P2. And people always talk like, I'm repeating myself because I spoke about this last time around, but of course, like people always told about, how he's always been close to a winning position but never won. And for me, I don't find that to be true at all, because after Russia, yes, he has been P2, but he's not been. He just didn't have the car to challenge for the win until Miami, because the Red Bull was too fast. And the moment he had a car, I mean, the Red Bull had issues, whatever, but still he had to do the job. And he did it incredibly well. Like he almost messed up the restart, but ever since then, he was flying, and he won the race comfortably. So I mean, he's been driving incredibly well. The win was coming again, like with Charles, he deserves all the praise. But to add to that, I think after Lando and Oscar, I will get to Oscar as well. I think the real MVPs for McLaren are the development team, because they have nailed 100%. Every single development they brought, starting from because I'm repeating myself again, but 2023 at the start, Andrea Stella came out and said,
"Don't worry, Abhishek, they haven't heard the episode. Only coming to
So they came out. Stella came out and said, "Our car is not where we wanted it to be. There are issues." And everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys have messed this up. You all got rid of Ricardo for a massive sum. You all fought with Alpine for PS3." and you get two good drivers and you give them a bad car. And they were under the pump. And since Austria 2023, where they bought their upgrades, every single upgrade has worked. And ever since then, their trajectory has been, their trajectory, of course, is an upward trajectory and a very steep one at that. And, they got the sprint win in Qatar. And of course, all those podiums and culminated in a Norris win in Miami. And on PS3, I think, well deserved, right? So I was so happy for him as well, because these last few races he has been racing really well, but he had nothing to show for it. Because of the contact with Carlos at Miami, and then brilliant qualifying in Imola, but unfortunately bad communication with the team. He was impeding Magnussen and got the penalty. If he was in P2, he wouldn't have challenged Max probably, but he could have been at least P2 or P3. So he could have had a number of good results, but just due to reasons outside his control, more or less, he never had a good result. So for him to get that podium was great.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything you said about McLaren, and it was really nice to see Lando sort of erase the demons from Sochi 2021, that horrible race that he had. Not a horrible race, but horrible into a race rather.
Yeah.
So once again, really nice to see him get the win. And Max himself has always said that Lando is a quality driver, and if Lando has a championship level car, he would challenge for the title. So, 100%. I think if McLaren do figure it out next season, if they can put in a car that can challenge Red Bull, I think definitely Lando and Oscar. I think I genuinely think Oscar as well. But obviously Lando has more experience. But I think Lando and Oscar both would be a real challenge for any team. But yeah, I think that's about it in terms of Lando, Max, and Charles in terms of the championship. But there is more stuff going on in the driver market.
I think we need to touch a bit more on the constructors, right, before we go to the driver market, because we haven't discussed really like what this entails for the constructors, both this season and the seasons to come. So first of all, what do you think about this season? I think we all know that it rests solely on Checo and what he does here or not, because once again he's had a solid start, but then he's had 3 races where it's been, he got away with it in Miami because of the Sainz penalty and the PS3 contact, and he had to drop back. Imola wasn't great. Monaco was a disaster. And suddenly he finds himself P5. And you have both Sainz and Leclerc driving strong. You have both PS3 and Norris driving strong. And Max is kind of alone there at the top.
Yeah.
So what do you think for this season?
For this season, I think, I would love to say that, I think there's a fight on our hands and that Leclerc and Norris are going to take it to Max. But I think that, Miami was a really good win by Lando, but obviously there was a safety car which did impact the race. Once again, I'm not taking anything away from him, but it was a really good win. And then Monaco is a very special kind of track where track position matters a lot, and what you do on a Saturday really impacts your race. So you have 2 sort of anomalies, but apart from that, it's been, aside from Melbourne as well, where they had the car issue, but the rest of the races where Red Bull has been comfortable, Max has been really, really dominant. I think Imola, Norris did catch up to him at the end, but overall, I think in terms of the Drivers' Championship, I still think it's heavily in favor of Max. I think especially since Red Bull has the experience, since they have, experience in challenging for the championship, I think they'll put him in the right position, and I think he'll get the maximum out of the car. So I think I'd still heavily favor Max to win the Drivers' Championship. The constructors, I think, is a lot more up in the air because Perez seems so unreliable, and he can have, even if Red Bull's not doing well, like we spoke earlier, you'd still expect Max to at least get like a top 5, top 6 at the very least, right? But you can't count on Checo to be close to him because Checo had such a horrible weekend. So I think given that McLaren and Ferrari both have two really consistent driver pairing, I think for the constructors there's a really good fight on our hands. That's my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is like everyone was calling for Checo's head again, but apparently it seems like he's going to sign a 1 year deal,
Yeah.
1 year deal, per reports. But I told this in a previous episode, but I think Checo's best performances for Red Bull have come when he has been like clear number two, when he's not challenging for the championship, whereas when he's there to help Max, which was 2021 and 2022 when Charles was challenging Max. Like he was the perfect wingman, more or less. Like when Max was having issues, he was fighting Charles and Sainz, and he was doing well. It was the moment that he was like, the guy to challenge, like he was in the best position to challenge for the championship, that he kind of, fell away.
Yeah.
So if it comes to that again, and right now he's clearly that he's fifth in the championship, right? I think he could just like relax and not try to push too much, which is what he was doing basically for the first few races in the season. So maybe he just needs to calm down, maybe, and like forget about all these things and just focus on driving, because he has done it before. So maybe, I mean, Checo is like I said, it's based on what Checo does. But I think if you look at the championship as a whole, we spoke about the regs also in that previous episode, but we couldn't do much. But just to like shorten it up, like there are issues with finalizing certain terms of the regulations, right? But and that's that whole thing that's going on right there. But for now, the regulations are supposed to come in 2026, which could throw everything up in the air again. I think next year is a key year. I mean, obviously, the team that nails it in 2026 or the teams that nail it in 2026 will have an advantage. But for teams like Ferrari and McLaren who are like close to Red Bull, I think next year is the year, because it's your last year. Newey is leaving Red Bull, so he won't have much say in the 2025 car. So if they really want to go for a championship, I think that next year could be the year where they can try and win that championship. And Hamilton's going to Ferrari. There are movements happening. So the teams will also have to make a decision about how much they focus on next year's car and on the 2026 regulations. I think next year could be very fascinating in terms of both championships. Because, like I said, I think the Red Bull could still be a car that could challenge for the title, because obviously it's carrying characteristics of the previous generations. That is this year's, last year's, whatever. So that means that Max will challenge. But maybe he won't be as comfortable. And with Ferrari and McLaren making those strides, you could see a very tight challenge. And it would be a shame that if after having such a good year like we had in 2021, if you have a regulation change and then it's just one team again. But I think we could be in for a pretty interesting season next year.
So you think if you had to pick Constructors Championship for 2024, who is it? Are you
that's Red Bull, Ferrari? I don't know, because to be honest, I mean, I'm yapping a bit here, but yes, Ferrari were fast. Like at one point, like Ferrari were the designated second fastest team behind Red Bull. But Monaco's are not. You can't really take Monaco for like outright pace, right? But if you look at Imola and Miami, McLaren were quicker than Red Bull, and Ferrari couldn't really cut the gap down to Max. Like Charles wasn't really maxing in Miami.
Yeah, he couldn't,
despite his problems. And even in Imola, Piastri could overtake Sainz, and
Lando
Lando was catching Max, and he was like dropping Charles like crazy.
Yeah.
So Ferrari would be wary of that, for sure, because McLaren are right there. It's a question of can this McLaren in terms of experience are much less compared to what Ferrari have. So it's very tight, and maybe that could play into Red Bull's hands, like because there are tracks they'll be obviously faster, but then they have the Checo issue. Checo has to like turn up, so it could be very tight. I maybe it's possible that Ferrari might win the constructors, maybe, and maybe we'll find out later on when like Max and Checo finish 1-2. But I think it could be between Red Bull and Ferrari, just because of the experience. It's very tough. It's very tough.
Now, since you said that, they're going to finish fourth in the constructors right after.
Yeah, but yes. Yeah, but I think that's what I feel for now. Quickly, let's go on to the driver market, I guess, and finish off this episode. Like, because there's a lot of things happening there. I mean, obviously nothing is
Yeah,
finalized. One of the key things we need to talk about is that second Red Bull seat. I mean, I think we spoke about it a bit. Like, Checo seems to
yeah,
be fixed for 25, apparently. Something radical has to happen. Like, he probably has to probably DNF the next few races or like qualify P20 or something for that to change. It's a shame that Tsunoda is apparently not being considered a lot because he's driving incredibly well. Uh,
he is. Yeah,
yeah, but what do you think about that Red Bull seat?
I think it's really tough. To be honest, it would have been really nice to see Carlos Sainz in that seat, just given how consistent he has been.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like that relationship is something that's, given the history that they've had, it doesn't seem like something that will happen.
Mhm.
Fernando Alonso would be really interesting for like one season just to see the chaos.
Yeah.
Uh,
Just Max and
but
Fernando going full beams.
but I think all things considered, I think they're going for like the safe option because they just don't want to disrupt Max and they don't
Yeah.
want to disrupt his challenge for 2025 as well. And I think they'll give it to Checo. And 2026, I really don't know who's going to take that seat. It really depends on who's available, I guess, at the time. But it seems like for the Red Bull seat that based on the reports that have come out, it seems like Perez will re-sign. But since we touched on Sainz, uh, probably the hottest property in F1 right now in terms of drivers out of a contract.
They don't call him Chili
Uh,
for nothing.
he he has loads of options. Obviously, he's got Merck, he's got Williams, which has recently emerged, and then obviously he's got the Kick Sauber seat and Audi 2026. If you had to guess, where do you think he ends up, or if you were Carlos, where would you go?
I think he should just take the Sauber seat, the Kick Sauber Audi/Audi, whatever, because I mean, time is running out. And at one point, Audi will be like, okay, fine, we can't be waiting for this. I mean, you're going into the unknown, but then at least you have a seat in Formula One. I think that would be the best option for him. I mean, who else is there? I mean, Merck maybe, but I mean, I don't know. Yeah, actually, Merck could be a possible thing, but then Merck is trying to set things up for Antonelli, right? So you don't know
Yeah,
how that situation will pan out. They probably won't get rid of George. Whereas in Sauber/Audi, like Hulkenberg is there, but Hulkenberg is not going to be racing for like 4 or 5 years. I mean, he could, but it'll
yeah,
be around Carlos, right? So I think
true.
that could be it. Could be the best option. Like I think he can ask things for the way he wants and stuff. That he could make the team his own. Yeah. So I think that's the best option in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I hope it doesn't go to Williams because I don't see that. I mean, Williams, it would be like a significant step back unless Williams have
Yeah.
figured something out for like next
And
season.
apparently,
I think.
Bottas has been in contact with Williams as well to go back. That could be
Yeah.
something. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, there are
Yeah.
crazy talks. I mean, the whole Ocon incident. Okay, Ocon did a crazy move, but the talk of wanting to drop Ocon, at least suspending for Canada, is like ridiculous. Like he's the guy who, I mean, Gasly has been okay as well, but he's the one who's been like closer to the points, Ocon, and like getting up like points. Like yes, he did a audacious move, and he's been like very aggressive with his teammates, but I don't think that warrants a suspension. I mean, obviously, maybe a fine or something like stop these things for sure.
Yeah.
100%, but ridiculous. But there's talks about the Alpine duo not being happy at Alpine, obviously, with them being so slow. The French dream is
Yeah.
probably dead. They want to leave as well. There's a lot of interesting moves that could happen in this market. I mean, Mick Schumacher, Michael, sorry, my bad. Mick Schumacher is like reported as a favorite in case they leave to take one of their spots. The
Yeah.
Williams conversation is there. I mean, Albon has decided to stay. I thought that Albon would have tried to go for that Merc seat because why not? Yeah, but
I
pretty
actually think
interesting.
that might be a. I mean, if unless obviously it's the uncertainty with Kimi Antonelli coming in, but I think it looks like Albon deserves a step up just based on how well he is
100%.
driving
Yeah,
at a tremendous race in Monaco as well.
yeah,
I mean, qualifying ninth. Um, but I think one seat for sure that's going to change at the end of this season is Haas,
yeah.
and I I just based on how well Kevin Magnussen is, he's just doing everything he can to just get rid of the Haas team. He had, I mean,
Bauman
he
will
had a,
probably start racing by Silverstone, I think.
I mean, I'm almost certain that Ollie Behrman will take that seat.
Yeah, I mean, Bauman is probably the guy that's going to come in for Hagenberg. I think whether they keep Magnussen or not is the question. Apparently, Haas has been generating a lot of interest from the drivers. I don't know. Apparently, number of drivers have been in contact. I don't know how
Yeah,
true that is.
Ocon as well.
Yeah, apparently, crazy. I mean, apparently, it's all to do with their ties with Ferrari and their progress upwards with Komatsu, which is great. But whether or not it's true or not, well, it remains to be seen. But a lot of interesting times coming up in Formula One. Like I said the previous time in the episode that didn't out, in case you didn't know that we couldn't out episode. But yeah, that's about it for this particular episode. Hopefully it goes out. Great win, Charles Leclerc. Congratulations, Lando, as well on your win in Miami, and hopefully a championship, at least some form of a championship fight, which probably won't happen. Max will probably start winning by 10 seconds, 20 seconds again. And we can all say everything is back to normal. But from Shavin and myself, Abhishek, take care. Bye-bye. And we'll see. Oh, yeah. We're also having a cricket episode that we just did. We recorded that before this episode, but this will come out probably before, I think. I have to check with Kavinka. We did it with Akila, who's been on our show before. So stay tuned for that as well. It's on the World Cup. Until next time, it's Shavin and myself. Oh my gosh, I messed it up. It's Shavin and myself telling bye-bye. Take care and see you after the next race weekend, hopefully.